I guess we can get started. Yeah, you don't need that.
My friends and I were actually watching that right before I came on.
Okay, I started recording, by the way. All right, so welcome to the August Roundtable. The usual etiquette things. If you're not talking, please mute your line so that you don't hear the Jeopardy song. If you got a camera, turn it on. Place your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them. Of course, number 5 of the Scout Law, be courteous. And with that, Osama, I will start the flag portion, and if you want to bring your 2 boys on to help lead the pledge and Scout Oath and Law, that'd be great.
So, audience, please rise. So, Scout salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in the Scout Oath. On my honor,
I will do my best
to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout Law, to help
other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Scout is
Trustworthy,
loyal,
helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful,
thrifty, brave,
clean, and
reverent.
reverent.
Thank you, guys. Great job. All right, let's go here. Oh, what was that? Oh. Apparently, this is the announcement song. I put it in here, but it didn't have the. So we have some announcements. Lauren, you had an announcement you were going to make?
Yes, I do. So just a few things. First off, thank you, Craig. He is putting together our recruitment page. It is looking great. The final touches and pizzazz are being put on now, and so that should be out soon. But a huge shout out to Craig for really being amazing with that. With fall recruitment, we've just been trying to get in contact, talking to units, got a lot of sign-up nights ready. We're getting a lot of people excited, and we're really excited. In fact, we had our first sign-up night tonight. That's why Blake isn't on right now. And we had 5 kids sign up tonight in the pouring rain. So maybe not, like, we're really excited about getting them involved, even in inclement weather. And so just wanted to give you guys those updates. That's all I got for you, Craig.
All right, great. Thank you. Yeah, so if in case any of you haven't noticed, we've been mucking with the district website a little bit and changing some things around on it and trying to streamline it a little bit and bring it out of 1990-ish time frame, more up to date. So if you do keep looking at it, you should see changes on there and some different things showing up. If you have ideas of things that you'd like to see or on there, more of on there, just let us know. Bill, you have some announcements for training.
Yes, some quick ones there. Those, the national change of YPT, the youth protection training, about 2 years ago. We've had, and everybody was required to take the new training 2 years ago. Since then, we've added a lot of people to the rosters, but for the most part, most of the people that took the YPT 2 years ago, their 24 months is up now. So yeah, we need everybody, particularly the committee chairs and whoever's running the unit to review whose YPT is expired. We do not want any youth, adult members, working with the youth if their YPT is expired. It opens risk to the Boy Scouts of America. It opens risk to the charter unit. It opens risk to the adults working with the youth as well as the youth. So so please take this message back to your units that get your YPT done and get it done fast. And this year, because of the refocusing on the DENs, we need to make sure all our DEN leaders get trained. So those who are working in the packs, please push training to the DEN leaders as much as you can. It's online at my.scouting 24/7, 364. Takes 90 minutes and you're done. And it'll basically lead you to what you can do, what you can't do, resources. And in addition to those, contact me or come to Roundtable where additional resources are available. Thank you.
Bill, got a question for general public. So what happens if you forgot your password? Because it's been 2 years.
Well, you can go back and reset it. You can always give Miss Donna Carr a call and she will reset it for you. And then you'll have to go in. The first thing you do is change it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the breakout sessions for tonight are, you can see them on the screen. The main session is Den Chiefs and Service with Tom Reitz, our service chair. And then we have for the Cub Scout round breakouts, we have Den Leader and Cub Master breakouts. For Scouts, BSA, and Crews, troop leaders and Life to Eagle coordinators. And then we also have adult recognition and awards with Mark Capel. So Dwayne Sims is leading Den Leader, Bill Affelt and Travis.
Travis will be leading it. I'm supporting Travis all the way.
Gotcha. For troop leaders, Anna's leading that, and for Life to Eagle, Burke is leading that, and we got, of course, Mark Capel is leading adult recognition and awards. All right, I'm going to try this again. If everybody remembers from last month, it kind of went crazy sideways when I opened the rooms. So I'm going to open the rooms. You should be able to join the room that you're supposed to be going to. If not, let me know in the chat. We'll take the next 5 minutes and move people around. It looks like everybody's kind of moving, so that's good. Lauren, you're staying in the main session. Neil Waterson, are you staying in the main session? Water Street, sorry.
Yeah, I am.
Osama, are you staying in the main session? Okay, Rebecca, are you in the main session as well? There's Tom. So it looks like, oh my God, it actually worked this month. Whew. Yay. All right, Tom, I'm going to stop sharing. I already stopped sharing. So if you have something you want to share, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, it's just a discussion. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. So how many people are in the group?
Looks like 6.
6. Craig, yourself, Lauren, Neil, Rebecca, and Osama.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay.
There was like 10 other people that were scheduled to join, so, and most of them were in breakout, so we might get more as the meeting goes on.
Great. Okay. Well, I guess the first topic, the elephant right now, we all thought COVID was easing off, and then here it is again, wham. We're hit with it, and in many ways hit with it hard. So the question is, what can we do to fulfill our mission as Scouts? We all know that in our oath we say to help other people at all times. We say in our law, a Scout is helpful. In our slogan, we do a good turn daily. And many units have been hit with the quarantine and literally a stone wall of stopping service activities because of COVID. For the most part, with good reason, because we don't want our kids exposed to this deadly disease. People can argue it all day long.
It's a Scout Roundtable.
What's
I'll
that?
move you in. Terry was.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Terry. Hang on. I'll move you. There you go.
Ready to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So people can argue back and forth all day long about the politics of it and what's right and what's wrong. But we as leaders have a responsibility to our youth first and foremost to keep them safe. That's why we talk about youth protection all the time, too deep leadership and everything that goes with it. So as the district service chair / community service liaison, I scratch my head and and thought long and hard about, well, what can units do? So I put feelers out to ask, what are units doing? And I got some feedback. Well, we're doing some things at home. We're making face masks. We're doing some things for elderly neighbors. Mostly families doing things where there might be 2 scouts in the house or several scouts in the neighborhood who are out shooting hoops during the day anyway. So the parents figure, well, it's okay for them to go off and do a little service project here or there, pick up trash in the neighborhood, whatever. But no real significant service projects other than Eagle projects. So, you know, what I'm focusing on here when I say scout service is other than Eagle projects. When we went back, to cut back a little bit, the journey to excellence, one of the big problems that we had with JTE was, and this is a topic that Craig's going to bring up in the future on another roundtable session, is booking the service hours, because it was very confusing and people had to log the service hours, however, whether you're doing it on a napkin or on an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, or in Scapbook, and then do a separate login to the JTE website to, again, list out the information. Not a whole lot, but enough to stop people from doing it. And the problem with it was that council was entering in the service hours for Eagle projects. So units would go to JTE and they would have enough hours, enough projects to get gold for JTE, even though they weren't listing any projects other than what council was listing for Eagle projects. So the upshot of it is that the hours that were reported to national and going to the annual report to Congress were slipping in terms of how many hours scouts were actually performing. The hours were not being stated. The hours are being done, but they're not being stated. So we worked to try to motivate people to enter into the JT site, and we had some positive reaction, and people began to enter and to work on it. And then, bam, we got hit with COVID. So the question now is, where do we go from here? How do we do service as scouts, as troops, as packs, as crews? And I don't think we have any ships in district, but in our scout units, how do we do it? Do we have families doing it on their own? Do we endeavor to do it as a unit? I think we'd all like to see us get back to the unit service project. And how can we do that? Well, the first thing you've got to look at is masks. Then you've got to look at 6 foot distancing, social distancing, and sanitizing. Let me put the question out. What service projects have your units been doing since COVID started, if any? Osama?
We have Eagle Service Project. This was one. Mm-hmm. We joined Alatuna a couple of times, Alatuna service projects to get Alatuna opened, and Bert Adams. And we did a cleanup in the neighborhood.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So you, as a unit, have, I guess you could say, have utilized the council resources for service projects. Yep. That's good. That's good. How has that satisfied your unit? Has it kept them busy enough, do you think?
Individuals.
Yeah.
It wasn't organized as troops. The troop itself wasn't, was just announcing, but not encouraging.
Right.
So we don't want to take the responsibility, but we know that it should be okay. But, guys, here is a good place to go. And
make the decision as a parent. Yeah. How many scouts do you have in your troop now?
So active in online meetings now, 20. I believe we have 40 registered.
How many?
40. 40.
40? That's excellent. So you're up quite a bit. All right.
Between 20 to 25 attending online.
That's good. Do you think that if we could find service projects in the district area that are not council related with different beneficiaries, let's say a food bank or a senior home, would your scouts and their parents, do you think they'd be receptive to us trying to launch either unit or district service projects?
They can, but after school, I believe they will keep kids in.
Yeah.
So I don't think they will take any risk during school. They are already trying to pass this semester.
Yeah.
But maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Conservation projects. That's the one we need the most right now.
Do you think so?
Well, I've got a bunch of kids that are working towards life, so they all need the 3 hours of conservation. They got their rank. They ranked up during COVID, so they had service. They were able to complete. We still did our Memorial Day flags service project around Memorial Day.
Yeah.
But there's been a couple of Eagle projects along the way, so they've gotten service. They just haven't gotten conservation hours.
Craig, how many scouts are in your unit?
26.
26. And how many are at that stage of life where they need conservation?
About 5. But I've got kids in all ranked areas, so they all need some amount of service hours.
Right. Everybody needs service.
So, that same service project that might be conservation is also a service project that somebody can get regular hours for.
Exactly. Neil? Neil, are you with us?
Mute. You're on mute, Neil, in case you didn't know that.
I can go ahead and speak if Neil's
Rebecca,
pausing.
please.
So I'm a new committee chair for Troop 356.
Okay.
And kind of in August, maybe July, I sent out a parent survey that I created just to kind of get a gauge on where our parents are feeling for our kids, what type of things they would be interested or allowing their children to do, their boys to do. So I think before the PLC happened, we had that survey to sit there and say, what are we willing to do and where are we willing to go with that? So everybody was pretty much that answered the survey, which was 50% of the troops. So that was pretty good.
How big is your troop? How many?
We have about 38 scouts. We have only 2 brand new ones. And then we have 18 that are Life or Eagle. So we are very top heavy, extremely top heavy.
Absolutely.
So as far as the service component goes, our survey revealed that the parents were really interested in only outdoor service projects. They didn't want anything that had to do with indoor. They also didn't want to do anything that had to do with going door to door, like collecting things or soliciting stuff. So with those 2 things in mind, as a troop, the service project that we had established for our charter organization, excuse me if I don't have all the words right because I'm still learning everything.
Yeah, charter org, yeah. Who is your charter org, by the way?
It's a Fellowship Christian School in Roswell, Georgia. We were supposed to redo their cross-country course and get that maintained for them. That has obviously been pushed back. Like many other troops, I think we are actually one of the lucky ones that they are still, we had our first meeting on Monday. We had 18 scouts come and they are still allowing us on their property, but we can't go inside. So we have no use of bathrooms where we're at. And when the daylight diminishes, we will be struggling for that. So actually we're looking at our first Court of Honor on September 8th and making that a candlelight Court of Honor.
Nice.
Bring their camp lights, tea lights, whatever we can, luminaries that we can kind of create and make. So getting back to the service, it would be really nice if we did have a district list of outdoor. You were mentioning conservation, Craig. And definitely, Osama, how you were saying, getting out to Lake Alatuna, those were all ones that we had previously discussed. I would like to add, though, since I am totally new at this, when you're talking about logging hours into JTE, I know nothing about that. So if we need to log something, I need some training.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Just to let you know, the journey to excellence, the standard by which your units are judged, whether they're gold or silver or bronze.
I have that information, but I just don't know how to log things.
Well, yeah, and service is one of the components. And as I say, there's a procedure to go in and actually go onto a separate website from however you were counting it in your unit and re-enter the service information. And people were balking at that. So BSA said that they didn't have the programming people necessary to fold it into Scout Book to make it a one-hit deal where you'd enter it and you'd be able to migrate it right over. And they told me it's not going to happen. And then talking with Craig, he said it's done. They've done it. So they've made it happen, which is a real good thing from a recording standpoint. And, it gets BSA the numbers that they need. But what it also does, and just to sidetrack for a second, how many of you are familiar or have in your units the Presidential Volunteer Service Award program? Anyone? The PVSA?
I know that in the past, we've awarded certain people some type of troop service, certain adults, troop service, and maybe that's what that's called. I just don't know what the original title is. Okay, just as a warning, you can't go to pvsa.org for President's Volunteer Service Award .org because it's I think it's a site about prostate cancer. I made that mistake one time and it didn't work. So, but the President's Volunteer Service Award, and I believe it's a .gov page, walks you through what the award is and how to sign up as an administrative group so that your unit can begin to track and award and recognize scouts for their service and for adults too. And you can log it as, here we go. Great. Craig, you're amazing. You can log however you want. You can do it on an Excel program. That's Troop 2000. My home troop does it. And in our unit, we have the scouts count the hours themselves, and then they bring the hours and with the activity listed on it on a form that's been made up. And we'll put that together, and I'll share that with you all. Our parent who records, takes the hours and enters them into Excel and tabulates it all. You can see that for a teenager, a scout, younger scout, for 50 hours, they can earn the bronze the President's Volunteer Service or the PVSA. So then you get up to age 16 to 18, and to get gold, you're talking about 250 hours. Now, the important thing is that these are within whatever 12-month year you decide to do it. So if you want to do it from January to December, or you want to do it from a school year calendar plus summer, however you want to do it, that's up to you. But it's for a 12-year block of time, and it's going forward. So and you could really go back and backlist some things too. I don't think the PVSA is that critical on that. Craig, while we're on awards, can you bring up the Congressional Service Award?
Commercial?
The Congressional.
Congressional, yeah.
The Congressional is a little different. And I'll tell you what, if you have some time, and we're going to send this slide out as well with information on it. When you look at the requirements for the Congressional Service Award, it's essentially what a scout does to get to
the right one.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
To get to Eagle. They've got various components of the program. If you hit on program, Craig, can you do that? Program, 4 program areas. Let's see if you're, yeah, okay. It's all, the difference with this and the Presidential Volunteer Service Award, the PVSA, you can backdate it somewhat. You can pull things out that you did. If you want to say, hey, let's start in January, if you've done a lot of service from January to August, you could go back and you could record everything and go forward with it. With the Congressional Service Award, it's a different animal. You have to start the program with a scout and go forward. So any work that they've done in the past, unfortunately, it doesn't count. So if a scout's a life scout, anything that the scout has done up to that point to meet these goals, to establish these goals, to get to life, they don't count. But from life to Eagle, or an Eagle who is, and this goes up to, what's the, Craig, you know the max age on this?
thinking I saw it was 21.
I think it's 25
Or
Yeah.
25.
So there's enough time for someone to start, even if they're 18 years old and get ready to age out. And actually, it's a good way to keep them connected to the troop because they can go off to college and keep them on your scouter reserve, and they can come back with their service hours and say, hey, I'm at Clemson and I've done 1,000 service hours, and here they are. It's a good way to connect. We're going to get more into both of those awards so that you'll know more about it.
I highlighted this one, so your scouts that come to Cub Camp and help it, and they volunteer their time to be assistants at Cub Camp and whatnot. You know, this is right here. I will volunteer to be a counselor at Scout Camp for 12 days. So for the 4 days that we do Cub Camp, this could qualify for that. They can qualify that time for this if they register in advance.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but you got to realize on this one too, because I've actually looked at this for my daughter who's not even in scouting, is that it is a 4, as that shows on the side, the 4 program areas. So it is pretty deep if you get into the specifics. Because one of the things we were struggling with for her is the expedition one and how she could get that. You know, Nick can get it on his high adventure, but where she could get it at. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty robust program.
Yeah.
For someone who's not a scout, I agree with you. It can be difficult. I mean, not everybody has the money to send their kid off to a Knowles National Outdoor Leadership School program out in someplace like Wyoming for a month or to Outward Bound. That gets pretty pricey. But there are other things that people can do. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Philmont type expedition. It doesn't need to be quite at that level. It is doable, and I think if we can get the program going at a district level and give the units information about how to work with it and not run it for the units, but if we were to be able to advise the units, would that be helpful to you guys?
I think so. For me, anyway, it would be.
You think so?
Yes, yeah. I would love to be able to present this to them. Yes.
Just so you know, international. I work a lot with the international committee, and the international award that kind of complements this is known as the Duke of Edinburgh Award, the DOE, and the Duke of Edinburgh Award is largely recognized in the United Kingdom, Australia, and any place that is or was part of the British Commonwealth. It's a widely recognized award. And if you compare it side to side with the Congressional Service Award, it's virtually the same. But the difference is to sign up to the Congressional Service Award, I'm not sure if there even is a fee. I think there's a nominal fee, but it's not very significant.
$25.
How much is it? Do you remember, Craig?
On the congressional one, it's $25.
$25. So it's very doable. I talked to the people at DOE in the United States. They have a branch in the United States. They're up in Chicago. I talked with them at length. We would have to get the Atlanta Area Council certified as an organization that can administer the DOE to scouts in our area. And to do that, we would have to send people to their training program. And it winds up costing, our numbers, rough numbers, when they told us how many people we would have to send based upon the number of scouts that we have in our area, it was going to wind up costing the council about, we figured roughly about $25,000 for us to get set up as an approving organization. So I inquired, okay, how many councils in the country are doing it out of the 200 and some, what do we have, 275 councils in the country? Or 250 something?
Something like that.
I think the number at that point was 6, and one more was working on it. And these were, for the most part, not to say Atlanta is not a big money council, but councils like the Dallas area, Los Angeles, the New York City area council, where they have a lot of benefactors who are willing to put money in for an international award like that. We decided to not pursue that. And if somebody wants to do it on their own, frankly, it's an expensive, tough road to go. I think the Congressional Service Award, or now it's just Congressional Award, is a much better way to do it, and it's very affordable. So we've got the two programs, the Congressional Award and the PVSA, and both of them can be managed quite well within the context of the service program. Let me ask something else. I sent out, Craig, what was it, about a month ago the memo went out?
Yeah,
about a month ago. It was entitled Scouts Serving the Community and Being Recognized for Their Efforts. Any of you guys, any of you see this? It was on an email from me, and attached to that was actually my background. If you really wanted to go sleep at night and couldn't, you could read my history and it would put you to sleep in about 5 seconds. But I wanted people to know who I am. Who's this guy who we've never heard of before? Well, you haven't heard of me because in 30-something years, I haven't worked with district. I work with council on the international committee, but all of my time has been spent as den leader, cub master, Sea Scout skipper. Oh God, there it is. As a very active assistant scoutmaster. In fact, I was Mark Coppell's assistant scoutmaster for many years, and we got a lot done. We got a whole lot done and had a lot of fun in scouting. But I put this out not to brag by any means. There are a lot of people who do a whole lot more than I do. I just put this out so people would know, who is this guy and why is he asking me about what my service is in my unit? Why is he asking? Why is he bothering me? And I think the reason why I went to that detail was so that you would know that for the most part, I've had the jobs that people in every one of our units have had. And I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be a den leader scrambling to get the kids together, or, filling in for the scoutmaster many nights and trying to bring, it's like trying to herd cats or goats from friends I know who have been in Afghanistan. It's no better. But the fact is I've done those things, and I know that units need help. So I put together the memo, which is entitled Scouts Serving the Community, Being Recognized for Their Efforts. And it's posted now, Craig, if I'm correct, it's on the website.
It is.
The district, okay. And
Here.
I was going to go and list.
It's right here under program and then community service.
Can you click on that?
It's right there. It's already open.
You scroll down. Okay, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Go down. Okay, stop. Go back, go up a little. Okay, a little bit more.
Is there like nobody else there?
A little more. Okay, stop. Okay, this is a really great site. It's called justserve.org. Is anybody familiar with that? Rebecca, you've seen it? Yeah. Have you used it before? You're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was uncloaking. Yes, my husband just recently used that because we are going down on Monday, as a matter of fact, to the Nicholas House, which is in Atlanta, and it is a homeless shelter for families, and that has a 60-day track for these families to get basically a job and back on their feet again, follows through. So we were looking during Corona time at ways that we could find as a family to volunteer. So that was one that they started back up, because you serve dinners. A family comes in and serves dinners to the 50 people that could potentially live in this Nicholas House. So that's, I think, where he found the idea. So it books up very quickly. So we are finally getting around to doing it again on Monday, and hopefully we'll get one more, because this is what my son is using for his citizenship of the community volunteer hours.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I applaud you for doing that. I didn't want to get too specific by starting to list out individual beneficiaries, because we've got basically 3 groups of beneficiaries out there. People like, and not to pick on them, but somebody like Chattahoochee Nature Center or Autry Mill. they've got a long list of scouts. One scout told me that he's been waiting 6 months for a return phone call from one of the groups just to get a discussion going about his Eagle project. Another scout told me he's been trying to get through to Chattahoochee High School, and he's been waiting 4 or 5 months. And time is ticking, and he's not getting any response. What should he do? I didn't want to start listing out the people who get lots and lots of service. And then the second group to list would be the people who have gotten some help from scouts, like, let's say, like Drake House, for example. Are any of you familiar with Drake House? For,
Yep.
I guess I could say, we would call it a battered women's shelter, women and families in crisis, I guess we could say, where they can pick up and they can go, and they've got a safe place to be. And I know my own unit has done projects along the way for Drake and for other entities like that. The Hands of Christ Food Bank is another one that doesn't get as many people as one of the nature centers. And then we've got a lot of beneficiaries out there, a lot of potential beneficiaries. When you ask them about Scout service, they say, Scout what? And you say, well, you know, we've got 36,000 Scouts in our council, Cubs and boy and girl troops and girl troops and venture crews. And have you ever had a Scout unit do anything for you? And they kind of look at you like you've got 6 heads and they don't know what you're talking about. So what I'd like to see us do more of is bridge out to do serve, not ignore the people we've already been doing it for. But if there's a waiting list in those areas where our Scouts are not getting feedback on a timely basis, they could shift to the beneficiaries that need more Scout service. And then the beneficiaries that have never had Scout service before. And that was the goal of it. There are 2 major, beyond just serve, there are 2 major groups on here that list out pretty much every charity you can think of in the greater Atlanta area. And it's Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta, cfgreateratlanta.org. And the other one that lists out an extensive range is also the UnitedWayAtlanta.org. There's a lot of duplicity in those 2 sites, but cfgreateratlanta.org, if you go there, you might find a fire department in an outlying county that needs money for a burn drive, whatever it may be. And you can get in touch with them and talk about what they need. I had a Scout come to me, and I've had leaders ask as well, how do I find a service project? How do I click with someone? How do I find it? Like Rebecca, what you did by going to Just Serve is something that any unit can do. And you can also go to cfgreateratlanta.org. Now, Craig brought up an excellent idea tonight. Craig, you want to talk about the questionnaire for beneficiaries?
Oh, we're just talking about setting up a form where
we talking about tonight,
so that we can so beneficiaries can go and put down that they have things they want to have done, and then Tom can vet it and then post it for units to be able to go and do.
So that way units wouldn't have to hunt. You'd see that maybe ABC Senior Center would like to have somebody come by and play some music for them outside the windows. Yeah, Rebecca.
I would say that's one of the things that I think it's hard to gauge off of these sites is sometimes the age level that they would want to serve there, like Habitat for Humanity for one thing. I mean, I know some of our scouts are very capable of doing the jobs. I've served out there before. However, they don't want us. And so the other part of the thing is like for Nicholas House, you know, we're a family of 4 and we're like, oh, we're serving 50 people. Do we need more people? Well, no more than 4 people could fit in that kitchen that we worked in. So, you know, when you're looking at the scope of the project or looking at maybe this possible beneficiary list, one of the things that I would suggest to be on that form would be the ages that they will allow to work there, and also the maximum or minimum number of participants. Because that will, again, for smaller troops or larger troops, would know how to interact. And also, you know, for service, and I know that I think part of this beginning project was supposed to be talking about den chiefs, is we're looking at opportunities to recruit, since we only got 2 new members this year, and using that as maybe a Webelow opportunity to say, hey, we're going on this service project, and using that as a way of introducing them to Scouts versus just only concerned about who we have in our tree.
Right, exactly. And that's a very good point, because my son just finished up med school, and he did a lot of work. He went to Emory, and he did a lot of work in Clarkston with the refugee community there. And I reached out to several of the groups there, and they wanted commitments of a 12-month period, somebody to commit to tutor students for 12, a whole school year. And not just somebody to come in and talk about one subject, but to actually come in once a week or twice a week down to Clarkston and sit down side by side with a student and tutor them. And you know, so that's pretty much beyond what many of our units could do. And a number of the organizations said, you can't come in here unless you're 18. And then some of them say, well, you can be less than 18 if your group is smaller than X and you have so many adults per. So these are things, Rebecca, you're exactly right. And we need to put that on the form when we're asking them, how can we help you? And they come back with specific things. They need to know what is the type of things, and I'm going to put that in a letter to them, the kind of things that we can do. We can't come to your 4-story senior residence and re-roof the building. That's not something we can do. But we can plant flowers. You know, we can pick up leaves. We can.
Not to say that re-roofing project wouldn't be excellent to have on a, you know, Eagle Scout project idea component.
Exactly.
Side by side, where they're looking for a bigger scheme idea.
Or they wanted one scout who was up for the oh, come on, the NESA, the National Eagle Scout Association Adams Award, the Glenn Adams Award for council, was a pavilion that was built for a band, a high school band, and it was like a commercial construction project, and a scout did that for his Eagle project. So scouts can do great things, but just to give you another side of that, years ago, my son was working on his Eagle project, and he was very interested in the military. He wanted to do something. He decided for the USO, United Services Organization, to help the servicemen and women, specifically going through Hartsfield Airport, because whenever we would travel, we'd see lots of service people going through the airport. And he was always wowed by that. And he said, Pop, I'd really like to do something to help them. So he got all of his information together, and he called up the head of the USO, and she said, well, you could come down and wipe off some tables and rearrange some of our magazines for your Eagle project. And he said, well, no, I can do more than that. Maybe I could build a bookcase for you. And she gave him, no, just come down and restock the refrigerator with soda for us. So finally, Tim's Eagle mentor had to call her up and explain what an Eagle project can consist of. And Tim wound up, they agreed on a need, and that was to get the military personnel paperback books for while they're traveling. So they wanted brand new paperbacks that could be they could pick them up off the shelf, and they could take them and literally shove them in their duffel bag and go wherever they were going. They could take a handful of them if they wanted to. And he wound up collecting, because our troop was 2,000, he collected 2,000 paperback books, and they had to be brand new books of certain genre. You know, they couldn't be anything seedy, or they had to be really morally upstanding type books. So that's sort of the other side of it. People don't understand how much scouts can do. So what I'm hearing is you want to hear more about what beneficiaries need, and you want to hear more about conservation projects. Am I hearing correctly?
I'd also like to include, I know we've predominantly focused on troop level lately, but I've even had talking to schools about fall recruitment on the pack level. I've
Yes.
had principals ask like if our units would make encouraging signs for their teachers. Specifically OC Elementary, and I've had another school, the name just escaped me, but like they're even like our own, the people who are supporting our kids in a different world could use some support in that way. So even if your unit's wanting to pour in that way, that I think would make a huge difference from what they've been telling me is giving those people who need encouragement, like a small project that if some families, for specifically like PACs, if they don't feel comfortable meeting in person, they can do an arts and craft and maybe put it out together, take a picture with it and show each other that way. So that's just another idea.
I think that's a fantastic idea. Let me ask you, how many PACs do you think we have that are sponsored by elementary schools? Any idea?
Oh goodness.
Probably quite a few, right?
A lot. Let me look at that.
Well, they're not sponsored by elementary schools because that was stopped years ago.
How long ago?
Oh, there's no schools sponsoring. There's schools that let them meet at the school.
1143 used to be chartered by Finley
We're
Oak.
not. No, gone. That stops.
We're chartered by Fellowship Christian School, so we are.
That's
it's
a
not
private
public
school.
school.
That's
Yeah, but it is an elementary school.
You're right. You're right. I stand corrected. Public schools, scouting stopped doing that. When there was some issue with scouting that they were having.
I was on mute.
So yeah, it's not there.
But do we know, Lauren, do we know how many PACs meet at schools? Because those would be the perfect PACs to approach and say, hey, how about putting together a welcome back sign program for your teachers?
At this point in time, nobody's meeting at a school.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Nobody's meeting anywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, even the ones that are chartered, like mine is chartered by Roswell United Methodist Church, but we used to meet at RNE, but we still recruit from RNE. They started charging us to meet there, so it could be for free over at this church, so we do that. But that welcome back teachers idea for next year is a great idea.
It is. Great idea.
Because we can actually, that's something they can do even though they recruit there.
Yeah, and even I've talked to specifically the unit that recruits out of OC Elementary. They're like, oh, well, we just gave, like my neighborhood just gave a bunch of like baskets to them, but they're like, maybe when some of the hype or all the energy of school just starting wears off, we could talk to them about seeing if they'd be open to us doing signs maybe in like September, October as a reminder that they're still supported and appreciated. So that was just an option that I thought was really cool that a principal brought up to me when I asked how we could help serve them.
I think that's a great idea, and I think we can talk more about how we could physically do that and put that out to our PACs.
So Tom, with that form, we could do as you're vetting them, you can figure out whether or not they'd be good for Cub Scout PACs or Cub Scouts and then Weeblos and then
absolutely tier them,
then crews.
Well, a lot
so
of
who's the ideal target for it? Sorry, Mark.
No, it's okay. I was going to say a lot of teachers are still teaching in the schools. They have to go to the school and sit there. So doing a project like that now is actually beneficial because they go to an empty classroom and they just sit there and stare at the walls. So doing something nice for the teachers while they're sitting in a class by themselves with nobody to really look at except a screen, which is not what they're used to doing, would be, I think, a nice gesture.
Hi, this is Tiffany Benton. I'm a committee chair for a PAC.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hey, we're chartered out of Mount Pisgah, but our main elementary school is Barnwell Elementary. And I think that is an awesome idea with the signs. Because I had, my daughter is in elementary school with a PAC. And one thing that they did at the end of last year and the beginning of this year is they basically did a drive-through for all the kids to see the teachers. And then they asked all the kids to make signs to hold outside the windows they drove by, and the teachers loved it. So if it was something like that that could be left at the school for the teachers to see, that is put there, like over the weekend when they're gone away from the building, I think that would just show them how much we appreciate and love them. Especially, in the coming months, once the beginning of the school year here kind of fades off.
I think that's a great idea, and what I think might be helpful, you tell me if I put something together, and Craig, we send these ideas out to specifically to PACs and say, hey, you're probably wondering what your Bobcats and your Wolves can do. Here it is. Here is something. I think that would be helpful.
I think your website is fabulous too, by the way. I did see the posting on there and clicked on a few of those active buttons that you had. So, rather than always just sending out emails or whatever, especially for me being a new person, encouraging people to go to the resource rather than always feeding them is a good training in itself.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that is good. And Craig, I have to say that in the past year, the change in the website has just been phenomenal. Phenomenal. What you've done is it's amazing.
It's not just me, it's Mark and Paul are helping too. So.
Oh, yeah. Yep. But they're not here now. So, unless you could put them in artificially behind you, that might.
I don't have their pictures handy.
Is there anything anybody else would like to talk about on service before we cut over to Den Chiefs?
On the Den Chiefs. Den
Chiefs, okay. Den Chiefs is a project near and dear to my heart as a project because as a scout, I actually was a Den Chief, and for a brief period of time, brief only because it was towards the end of the year, and it worked out well. I was a good Den Chief, but when I was a den leader, we had a scout come as a Den Chief. And I inherited him because I inherited the den from an outgoing leader. And he was great. He was very, very helpful working with the scouts. Eventually made Eagle, went to his Eagle ceremony. Mark, I don't know if you remember, is Mark there? No, I guess he's gone.
He's here. He was here.
He was here? He's not, no, he's gone. But he went on to make Eagle, and I should really check in and see what he's doing now. I'm sure he's doing great things. But when I became a Cub Master, so we needed more Den Chiefs. And we had a big pack, and it was pack 1143, and we met, as I said, at Finley Oaks Elementary. And we were very, very fortunate in that we had, I think, 7 or 8 older brothers who were all Boy Scouts. And they became our de facto Den Chiefs because they had to come to the den meetings anyway because their parents were coming. So they came along, and they helped at the den meetings where their little brothers were scouting. At the pack meetings, I used them as, I call them pack chiefs. And I found them very helpful in organizing and corralling and directing the little cubs in every direction that we wanted them to go. And if we wanted to set up activity stations, these scouts would jump right in and get involved with it. When I crossed over to the troop, our troop did not have a Den Chief program. And we're large troop, I think at our largest, I think we were about 110, 120 maybe. It was a big troop. And we had a problem. The problem was, as you can imagine, there were only so many jobs for patrol leaders, guides, troop guides, and instructors. And our instructors were the most senior scouts, the scouts who were Life and Eagle, who were still sticking around. And we had a lot of scouts who were working very hard to get to first class, to star rather, and they needed a leadership position badly. With no leadership position, they couldn't advance to star until they could wait until they could maybe get a troop guide position, which was limited by the number of patrols we had. Only 1 guy per patrol. So that left, 8 or 10 patrols, 8 or 10 troop guides, and that was it. So we had about a good 18 to 20 kids with no jobs, nothing to do. So I started up a Den Chief program. And I went to, it was my wood badge ticket. I had stalled up wood badge until Gene Veneman ambushed me. And that's not comfortable. She was actually really sneaky. She did it through my son. She got him to sign up, and he came to me and said, "Papa, I've got something really great that we've signed up for." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Wood badge." I said, "Oh no." So anyway, it became my wood badge ticket to start a program. And I went to a one pack, and I asked them, "Look, this is what a den chief can do for you." And I went through to refresh my memory. I went online, and at the time, National had a comprehensive program online, how to train a den chief. And there were people in district who were running little den chief training programs. And everything worked out great. We started out in one pack with one den chief in a Weeblos 2 den. And the second Weeblos 2 den came over and said, "Hey, we need one too." Well, to make a long story short, we wound up with, over a 3-year period, we wound up with 25 den chiefs in, it was 5 packs. It was spread over 5 packs, 25 den chiefs. So we went in, we actually had, in one tiger cub den, we had 2 den chiefs because they had some special needs scouts in the tiger group, and they needed scouts to work with them. Going back up a little bit, before the troop program, we actually had our ship, this is going back almost 20 years, we had about 50-50 membership of females and males, mostly around the ages of 16, 17. And not for advancement, because we weren't too focused on that, but more related to wanting to put something on their resume for leadership. We had some girls come up and say, "Hey, is there anything we can do in scouting to be leaders? Can we work with scouts in any way?" And I actually sent a couple of the girls over to one of the packs, and they worked as den chiefs. So girls can make excellent den chiefs. And I don't know that there's any prohibition about a den chief for a boy den having to be a boy, or a girl den having to be a girl, now that we've had girls enter scouting. Does anybody know?
You have to have a female leader.
A female den leader.
Yeah.
Right? But a den chief of a...
You can have a female den chief there with the Cub Scouts, but there has to be a female adult leader there present.
Exactly. So that was the other thing that we ran into, that with the scouts, with the age difference, the guideline on tenting is, what is it, a 2-year age difference on tenting?
Yeah, or siblings.
Yeah. So we were having some den chiefs go out who were 14 and 15 years old with tiger cubs. So we emphasized to the den leaders, you have to treat them as though they are like an assistant den leader. And as such, you have to have 2 deep leadership. So if that den chief is running an activity with the kids, yeah, you can be at the ball field, and they have to be within eyesight of you. You have to be able to hear what they're doing. What is the den chief talking to them about? Because there is, in some cases, a really big age group, age gap. But the program was very successful. I can tell you that our scouts got very excited about it. We met with them before troop meetings for a half an hour, twice a month. So these kids were not only coming to troop meetings and working on their merit badges, they were coming to troop meetings half an hour early, twice a month, and they were going to den meetings, in some cases once a week, and then going to the pack meetings once a month. So it was a huge time commitment for the den chiefs. And most of them did great with it. They did really great. I can tell you where it fell down, and this is really, really, really important. The communication with the den leaders. We got a lot of, in the beginning, yep, absolutely, I know exactly what a den chief does. I've gotten all the material you've sent me. Yep, I'll take the training online. I'll do it. It was, I think, I don't even think it took 30 minutes to go through the den chief training program online for an adult. Maybe it was a 28-minute program. And we found that out of the majority of our den leaders never bothered to take the program. They said they would, but they didn't. And I guess as a new program, I didn't want to bully people and say, hey, you can't have a den chief until you show me the certificate that you've taken the training. I didn't want to be a jerk about it. But in retrospect, I really should have been. I should have said, just like you've got to show your YPT certificate, you've got to show me your certificate that you know what the den chief is going to do for you and what the den chief is not going to do. And
okay, can I interrupt
yeah,
then for
absolutely.
a second? Because that's my son is actually a den chief, and I had no idea that sending him out to these troops that particular den leader needed to even have a certification. I mean, we were doing it purely as promotional material for our troop to kind of get some face time and try to get some recruiting done for this.
Now, let me stop you for a second. I misspoke a little bit there. I think it was misunderstood. There's a program available, and National pulled it and then re-implemented it. Craig, they have re-implemented it again, haven't they? It is current.
There is den chief training available. We do it in person in the district, and there is an online version periodically. It keeps going down and being put back up again.
Right, and that's what we ran into. It went out, and I think it was in our third year.
But to be clear, that den chief training is for youth. It's not for den leaders. The den leaders training is part of their leader-specific training. So just like you're a committee chair, you take your leader-specific training to be a trained committee chair. A den leader can take a similar training to be a trained den leader. Part of their training is a den leader module. A den chief module that explains what a den chief's for and whatnot. Now, it's not the only thing really required to be a leader is youth protection, training-wise. That's the only thing that keeps you from being a leader. We want everybody to be a trained den leader, and just like we want every, say, ASM and Scoutmaster to be trained, and every committee chair like yourself to be trained, because gives you better background on more ways to deal with the youth and what your job is, and make it more fun. So the den chief training, when your son works with the den leaders, he's not really an assistant den leader per se. He's more like kind of in the middle between the youth and den leaders. So they shouldn't be putting all of their job responsibility on him, but they should be giving him things to do.
No, these are different things that happen. When I say we wanted them to be trained, that meant we wanted them to go on the den leader training module that took a half an hour to do, voluntarily do it, and say, yep, I've done it. So that they would be familiar. We didn't care, from our purposes, whether they were trained den leaders or not, because we're at the troop level. And we're not going to start getting into what a pack that we're not affiliated with, other than this den chief connection, how they're training their den leaders. That it really was beyond our abilities to do that. But we said, we want you to do this module that literally takes you less than a half an hour online to do. And as I say, many of them did not do it. And they would cancel meetings. They'd postpone meetings. They'd schedule meetings 3 hours before. And Scout would get a call and say, hey, yeah, we're having a meeting over at XYZ Neighborhood Clubhouse. Yeah, you can be here, right? And the kids would scramble and do their best to be there. But if a kid missed, then I'd have a den leader say, your den chiefs are no good. They don't even show up at my meetings. And I'd probe a little bit more, and you find out, oh, wait a minute. What did you tell this kid to be there? There was no schedule, no communication. And so that, if you set up a program, you really need to have I guess I'm Catholic, I can say a come to Jesus meeting where you sit down with your, can I say that?
You're good.
Okay with me. Yeah, you did not insult me.
Okay. Where's Capel? Osama, did I insult anybody? No, I'm sorry. Come to Allah meeting, okay? So you need to sit around with them and have that meeting and say, look, these are what our den chiefs can do for you. These are the things that you can expect them to do, but you can't expect them to run the den for you. Yet they're not another Cub Scout. So don't treat them like a Cub Scout, because they're not. They're a lot more valuable than that. We had guys taking Star Scouts and tell them, yeah, I don't need to hear that. Go sit down, with a den leader who had no scouting experience whatsoever. So that communication is, if I were to stress one thing, that is, aside from training, that is the most essential thing, is to have ongoing communication. But Rebecca, you brought up your problem of having a top-heavy troop and looking to build recruiting. If you want to recruit Cubs, we found one of the best, it's not guaranteed, but one of the best things that you can do is take a couple of your really sharp older scouts and put them in with a den, as a den chief. And
Well,
work.
we're struggling with that now with COVID though, because a lot of these, I mean, so that's what I was kind of hoping this would actually steer towards is, you know, due to people not meeting face to face. I especially, I think I talked to, oh, she's not on here anymore, but the guy who's out at another school or signing thing.
Mhm.
When I talked to him on the phone,
Blake?
one of our main, Blake, yes, thank you. One of our main feeder problems is PAC 135. Well, they lost their charter org. So we don't,
really? I didn't realize that.
well, that's the rumor, because we have not been able to get a hold of them. Mountain Park Elementary is not meeting. So we have now kind of lost our main feeder PAC, which is kind of divided.
I'll give you an update. PAC 135 might, and I'm hearing might, become part of Northbrook.
Oh, okay.
That's it's not official at this point, but there's talks going underway.
Okay. So, yeah, I heard actually rumored just tonight about that as well. So, so we're struggling with exactly. So we had one troop guide that was supposed to go to 135 and one troop guide that was, or sorry, den chief, excuse me, that was supposed to be going to PAC 356, excuse me, but they're not meeting anymore. So how do we get these den chiefs into these PACs?
Well, Troop 356, as of last week, we're going to begin meeting.
She's the committee chair for it.
Well,
okay.
I'm troop, not PAC.
Not PAC.
I'm talking, and the PAC committee chair and the Cub master are husband and wife,
Right.
and they have a child with cancer, and so they're only going face to face.
Oh.
So we're struggling with, okay, we're at a loss on where to go. And the former committee chair was like, you just reach out to every single one that's in your zip code and you start sending people there. But do I really do that? I don't know.
Okay, so when I was Cub master, what I did is it was the opposite way around, because when I tried, nobody was coming to us with den chiefs. I'm a PAC 845, which is Roswell United Methodist. So 356 wasn't trying to bring den chiefs to me. 985 wasn't, even 431, our own chartered org, wanted nothing to do with the PAC. So we had at one point, close to 100 kids in that PAC. Or actually we were over 100. And even 87 down the street, nobody wanted to bring a den chief to me. So what I did is I started building relationships. So it's actually about building relationships. You and potentially the scout master or whoever the coordinator needs to start building relationships with the PACs around you. Then it's not going to translate into den chiefs right away, but it will translate into den chiefs later. But it also translates into the kids and the parents knowing where to go to, which PACs have been helping the PAC. I mean, which troops have been helping the PAC and whatnot. So
let me ask you a question. Since you were a Cub master and your Boy Scout troop wasn't willing or wasn't able to, let's just put it that way, poaching upon that troop's territory. And that's just my own, maybe,
as Cub master, I don't look at it. I never looked at it that way, because my philosophy on it in my PAC was that I assigned. So if Osama's troop wanted to provide den chiefs for my PAC, I'd assign a den to them, and that would be their den to take care of.
Okay.
Right.
And as soon as you stop providing den chiefs for me, I'm going to assign somebody else to it, and you're going to have to start all over again.
Right. And my feeder.
Let me finish.
No.
So what would happen is I'm going to mute you. What would happen was what I found out when I first started going out trying to find den chiefs was everybody wants to give you a den chief for your Weeblos too, and nobody else. Everybody wants to be that guy, come in at the 11th hour and go, oh, now I'm recruiting your guys to go to my troop, but I'm not going to help you with anything else. So I started them off at, you have to provide den chiefs for the wolves all the way up through. That's why it's your den. You start at Wolves and you move all the way up through with them through Hour of Light. Now you've been providing den chiefs as a troop for that den for 5 years, 4 or 5 years at this point. They know who you are. They know who your troop is. Chances are they've gone on an activity with your troop. The recruiting rate is a lot higher for your troop from that den because of that. And I saw all the kids in my pack that were, as that worked out, every one of those kids went to that troop, with maybe 1 or 2 because of a brother went somewhere else. But they would, one den would go to 87, one den would go to 431, one den went to 985. They would all go to different troops because of that. Now I used to send, and your former predecessor, 356, whoever that was, the troop, I used to send email messages to 356, 431, 430, 985, 87, 1134, and there's somebody else in there. Those are all local to my unit.
When we went out, and I went out and I was a little more bold about it. I called committee chairs and club masters, and I said, hey, look, this is Tom Reese from Troop 2000. We started a new program for leadership for our scouts that is very good for our scouts to build their leadership skills and is necessary for their advancement, because a lot of Cubs don't know how Boy Scouts advance, and a couple of leaders. And I told them, I said, the program is to go and be what's known as a den chief. And if you're not familiar with it, I can send you some basic information. I did. And I said, what we'd like to do is send a scout over to one of your PAC meetings, send a few scouts over. We go to the PAC meeting, we talk to the den leaders, and we basically do a little sell job. These are our scouts. They come over in their Class A uniforms. They look really sharp. And we'd say, how can we help your PAC? Do you have a den? We didn't ask for Weeblos 2s. Because that would look like what it was. That would look like we're trying to snatch that group from whoever else they might be going to. But we would say, have you got? Somebody would say, yeah, we've got a really big problem with this bear den, and we've rotational, a lot of problems. Okay, we'll send a den chief to that bear den, and we weren't picky about what they needed. And like I said, we actually had 2 den chiefs in one tiger den, and because there were special needs kids in that den. And what happened, over time, these PACs saw Troop 2000 as the troop they wanted to go to. And so the recruitment it flowed and flowed and flowed. It's not, yeah, you can call up as a troop, you can go to a PAC and you say, hey, look, we're kind of a mature troop. We've got a lot of older scouts. And the way I would sell it to a parent or a den of Hour of Light scouts is say, hey, your young scouts are going to come into a troop. And our troop has X number of life scouts, and scouts are at the very top, Eagle Scouts. And these Eagle Scouts and our Life Scouts can teach your young scouts all these great things that if they go to another troop, not to knock them, they might not have scouts as senior as ours to help your scouts move along. That could be a sell for you guys. That's something I would
So I'm hearing 2 different things. So I'm hearing from Craig that as a Cub Master, he sought out troops that would have to come to him. And then from Tom, I'm hearing he, as a, I believe, Scout Master, went down to the Cub Scout level. Is that what I'm hearing from both of y'all?
Yep.
Yeah, and what we're actually getting at is you got to build a relationship.
Yeah.
Well, here's my other
Somebody has
question.
to build a relationship.
I was going to say, that was a great segue, because should that somebody be a committee chair? Or is that somebody?
Can be.
Okay,
It can be anybody at that point.
I'm trying to find I've been told that I need to stay in my lane. And so I'm supposed to only work with parents, maybe not so much the kids. So I'm trying to figure out, that's why I'm on these things, to figure everything out and make sure I don't overextend myself or step on anybody's toes.
You're part of the key 3. It's a 3-legged stool. You guys got to work together. You can't rely on anyone to do the same job. Everybody's to back up to everybody else on those key 3.
Perfect. So my next question would be, Tom, you just said that, you know, I have a great selling point as being so top heavy and all, but my troop is really too small to support every level of every den level at a Cub Scout level. I don't have that many.
You don't have to. You could say, hey, we can go out and we can help you with one or two of your dens.
And in COVID, one of your ideas for helping them could be that the kids are good at demonstrating stuff via video. So they've done it a bunch of times. They're older. They understand how to do this. They've been doing it in school for a while. So they can help demonstrate how to build a fire, how to do these things, depending upon what they're working on for an adventure. So you could use them to, while you're trying to put something together, they can do something to keep the kids occupied and busy so that it doesn't become dead air.
And you only have to, I mean, you can send one per pack if that's the case. And it's up to you. I mean, the problem with my troop was that our numbers are getting smaller. And so there's lots of opportunities in the troop for positions. So we don't necessarily have to have a den chief at this point. But 3 years ago, when we were up about 40, 50 people, we had, we're looking for positions. And so then we had 2 or 3 people that was set up for den chiefs, and we put them at 2 different packs. And my feeder pack has actually got den chiefs from 2 troops. And so, and again, it's a hit and miss on where they're going to go. But again, they usually start as Webelos or bears at that point. Again, as you keep hearing the consensus of, if they only want to come in to do the AOLs, they're there for recruiting and poaching, basically.
And that's what my understanding was.
Just I wanted to help you.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I was monopolizing the conversation.
Rebecca, in my troop, I'm not a Cub Master anymore. The pack is turned over to somebody else now, but I'm still at the Chartered Org Rep in the troop that I built a relationship with. And we have a ASM that's assigned to be the mentor for the den chiefs. And what that mentor does is he is responsible for the relationship with the packs that he goes back and forth with. He may go to the committee chair to get help talking to certain packs because they have a relationship, or he may do it. But what that ASM does is he goes out and when the kids go to their first meeting, he goes to the first meeting with the kids that are being den chief. So that they don't feel like they're being out there by themselves. So he can kind of guide the den leaders a little bit, show up a little bit early, talk to them, get to know them. So if they're having a problem, they know who to contact as an adult, go to adult. He can explain to them, roughly what a den chief's supposed to do and kind of give them that little heads up. And then he periodically shows up and goes, make sure that they're showing up for the meetings and whatnot. We have a little attendance sheet we give them and just kind of check off and go, just if you could.
You need a dedicated adult who's going to do that. And we would go out to pack recruitment nights, and we'd help them do if they were going to do the water rockets or whatever. Our Boy Scouts were right in there doing that with them. And whatever they needed help with, we were there to help. And
so I got a question for you, Tom.
Yeah.
I ran across a troop who was trying to do a den chief for a pack, but they couldn't commit one person for the pack. So they said, we're going to send 5 people. They'll just do 1 a month. And when I heard that, I was trying to discourage them because I said, you're trying to embed this youth in the den to show that as an example. So they should be there the entire time. It shouldn't be, I'll do it this Tuesday, you do it next Tuesday. I mean, it should be consistent.
Yes, I agree with you fully. I mean, as a weak alternative, if you sent a couple of Boy Scouts to a pack meeting to help with the pack with an event, I could see that. But to do that with dens on a rotational basis, I think it defeats the purpose of building a relationship.
Right, that was my point too. I really started discouraging them. They didn't like the fact that I had a disappointing attitude, but I explained that. I said, you're trying to show consistency. You're not trying to see a rotational thing. It's not just to get there to get a position. You're there to establish a relationship with the den.
Exactly.
Rebecca, I would like to touch on, you are specifically referencing how to get these den chiefs into the packs, because I know with COVID-19, I've heard Blake and I have been actively trying to reach out to every pack to kind of talk about how they're doing, what fall recruitment's going to look like. And so we've heard a lot of alternate plans for each pack, like whatever fits best with their parents and kids. And a lot of them are focusing actually on the DIN levels itself.
Yep.
And if you don't have enough to go send for every DIN level, there's been some people who maybe have stronger DIN leaders and this and that and are helping other DINs at the same time. But reaching out to the specific PACs and asking them, because there's some who are trying to meet in person in small groups, and there's some that are going completely virtual. And so whatever best fits the PACs, how they're going, unfortunately that will, like, again, like they said, bridging that relationship. But that is a pro, is that COVID has shifted a lot towards the DIN level, which could help the DIN chiefs be able to guide more. Because I know a lot of the parents, and I probably am preaching to the choir, it's a really stressful week with school starting this week, trying to figure out how to manage scouting, how to manage school, how to manage work. And so I think having another scout to come in with ideas on how to help could only be a positive, at least in my eyes.
Perfect. That's
I
perfect.
asked a question about that, your comment there, Lauren.
Yes.
As a former Cub master, and I'll put the word former in front of it, I should be doing that because somebody's going to call me out on that later in the recording. But there's always a focus on the dens.
Okay.
So I've heard that somebody else say the same thing before in another meeting, and I'm like, no, there's always a heavy focus on the dens. We don't, especially in this area, we don't have a lot of where the PAC meets and it's a den meeting and a PAC meeting kind of thing. There are some that do that, but it's a little bit more few and far between in Northern Ridge, I think. So
we do have a few that do that.
I know we do have a few that do that. Heck, I try to do it just every once in a while, just to throw it in as something to do, but as a PAC meeting. But I think as a rule, I don't know that it's actually quite like that. But yeah, so like I know like 845 Rebecca they're starting to focus, like she said, focusing on den meetings, not so much not having PAC meetings as much. But what they're doing is so those dens are going to be meeting, so there's a potential to need a den chief. And when I said they started out at Wolf and provided den chiefs through the ranks, I meant that the Den 1, for instance, started as Den 1 as a wolf. The next year it's a bear. So 356 had it as a wolf, then 356 the next year would be given the option to provide a den chief for bear. So you're really only providing one den chief a year, or maybe two if there was two dens.
So, I mean, I know that every child is different too, but you know, we're talking about leadership positions, and some troops maybe having no leadership positions available. So you're making these, and you have some troops that are smaller that have really just too many, like my son, who is a patrol leader, and now he's also going to be a den chief because he's trying to double duty and make sure we get out there and stuff. Is that something that is recommended, or do you think that den chief is enough of a leadership position?
Well, you can only get one leadership position at a time. So even though he's doing two.
Well, no, if I understand correctly, he's trying to help the troop by going out to help recruit.
Well, he was elected for both.
Yeah,
I think being a den chief itself, if you're going to be a dedicated den chief, now maybe within COVID, it's a little different. Like as Craig said, you're going to do virtual, you're going to do videos online showing how to build fires and how to do different cool skills. If you're going to do a virtual thing, that's fine. But to be the kind of a den chief that you've got when it's a non-COVID situation, where, as I said, the scouts going to early to troop meetings to meet with the other den chiefs, just to compare ideas and find out what everybody else is doing. And then going out to den meetings and PAC meetings. That's a lot of extra time for a scout. So then you get a scout who's also, now he's on the PLC, on the Patrol Leaders Council. So he's got to go for that meeting early. You're putting a lot of demands on one scout.
And the den chief is for a full year. The patrol is only good for 6 months, 4 to 6 months.
If they want the award.
If they want the award.
The Den Chiefs Award, the colorful
ropes.
Yeah, the ribbon thing.
The Aguilera. That they want the Aguilera, they have to serve. It's a full year, and there are certain things that they have to do, different activities, tickets that they've got to punch to get that award. And it's a good way to keep them motivated to stay with it. I found most of the kids who were Den Chiefs had no anticipation of ever stopping. I had one scout, after he served as patrol leader, worked from first class all the way through Eagle as a den chief. That's what he did because he played baseball, and every baseball season he couldn't come to troop meetings, and but he could go and be a den chief, and he could go to pack meetings, and he just physically could not make it to troop meetings. So he fulfilled all of his leadership requirements by being a den chief, all the way up to Eagle.
And if you have a family that has one in the troop and one in the pack, that's one way to strong arm the older brother.
I think when it came on, Bill, we said that, yeah.
So I have a feeling that sometimes we look to the den chief as a position where youth can play or take responsibility of, if we don't have other positions for them. Some units look to it like this, the den chief position. I can see the den chief position as the most important position for
that's why it's still allowed. That's why it's one of the few ones that are allowed for Eagle Scout.
Yep.
So den chief, actually, if he is working with a den leader who really understands the program, not just activities. You know, the scouting is program and active. So some den leaders just do activities, just have fun. The kids just like what they are doing, but they are not building in the youth character. So if the den leader himself understands the program, he can really build in the den chief, and the den chief can just take it from the scout rank to the eagle rank, and he can get much better experience than the SPL.
When I gave a pitch to the troop, to the scouts about becoming den chief, some of the older guys snickered. And I asked them, guys, and this is the entire troop, I asked, what do you think is the most important position in scouting in a troop? And they raised their hand, senior patrol leader. And okay, why? He runs a troop meeting, runs a troop. Okay, how do scouts come to Boy Scouts? Well, they're Cub Scouts first. So, okay, what happens if a Cub Scout quits? How many Cub Scouts quit and then return later to Boy Scouts? And they shook their heads and they said, probably none. They go into other things. They go into swimming or baseball, or lacrosse, whatever. They never come back to Boy Scouts. So I said, just think about that now. Let that sink in. So if you're a den chief and you go, you've got a den leader who has never been in scouting before. The den leader was never a scout, doesn't know anything about the outdoors. You come in, you're an experienced Boy Scout or Scout now, Scout BSA. You're experienced. You go in and you can help that den leader. So you're going to help them have a better experience in scouting. So there's a likelihood that they're going to stay involved in scouting. And there's a greater likelihood that all of the scouts who are in that den, whatever level they are, whether they're tigers or they're bears or weebles ones, whatever, they're going to stick with the program because they have a role model in a Boy Scout, Scout BSA, in a troop. And they say, I want to be like that scout. And they get excited about scouting and they stay in scouting. And the best place I read, it's on my shelf, I'll dig it out. It's an old Scoutmaster's Handbook that it was Bert Huffnagel loaned to me. It was it's about several pages about being den chiefs and about the importance of den chiefs, and it talks all about that. So you know what Osama's saying is that being a den chief is really, when you look at it, the position that keeps kids involved in scouting at a young age, and they stay in it through Scouts BSA, and we don't lose them. I don't know what the statistics are of who leaves and who comes back, but I think it's probably very low. And I bet you that Scouts who have a mentor, slightly older, peer mentor in someone, they're going to want to go where they are. They're going to want to do what they do. They're going to hear about the camping. They're going to see the neat patches on the merit badge. They're going to say, I want to be a scout just like that person is. And it's a very important position.
Yeah, something else. I believe the den chief, this is the book for the den chief position. This is the only training or the only syllabus for a scout position, which is talking about the character of the boys you are working with. The characteristics of the age, Cub Scouts, what is a 7 to 9 years old do, what 9 to 10, what they like to do. So it's actually, if it is done correctly, you can get youth who can be a good father in the future, who he understand how to work with kids.
That's right. That's right. That's an amazing point. Yeah. They learn how to be dads at an early age, and better big brothers too. Yeah. Or moms too. Now we can have girls who are den chiefs. So
Yep.
Anybody, are we good on den chiefs, or we talked out, or?
Yeah, so
I very much appreciate all the information. Very much. It's all
Rebecca,
been
I'm
good.
around. You know, you want to send me an email, call me, whatever.
I wrote down pretty much everybody's name just now on their
Don't
board,
just-
so
Don't
watch out.
But please look on the service. Please look online on the website and go to the sites like the one that Rebecca went to, the CF Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta.org, and check it out and see. And we're going to put together that form for the beneficiaries to see if we can solicit specific service projects. And I'm going to be looking, Craig, for conservation projects.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.